Good evening, everyone. I'd like to invite anyone who's standing along the wall or in the back, if you'd like to come on up and sit. There's plenty of room up front. I made a comment to one of the parents, it's like church, everyone sits in the back. Someone said they don't want to be on camera, and I don't blame you at all about that. But I would like to welcome you to this evening's discussion with Mr. Miller and some of our administrative staff who is here to answer any of the questions you might have, to kind of give you an overview about the transition that will occur for next year and answer any questions that you have. I want to begin by saying that I have had the wonderful opportunity to work with a fine staff and so many caring and supportive parents. And I see many of those faces right here this evening. And I want to thank you for that. And it's been over the last 20 years, so it's been a long time. I know that this transition is difficult for our Rice families, both for those of you who are here tonight who have children who are currently attending Rice, as well as for the Rice community, which is very large. I often see many of our kids who are grown up and working in Giant Eagle and going to college and what have you, and this is their home too. So it is a very difficult transition as a community and for our district. I do want you to know that in this change, while there are many things that need to be done, my most important task is to ensure that each one of our students make a positive transition and also finish the year in a very positive way as just Rice students here in elementary school. Right now, I can assure you that we do remain very focused on our school year, on being Rice students, on being Rice Elementary, and that's what I think we need to do for our kids. So I want to reassure parents that is what the staff and I are doing from now until the last day of school. As I shared recently with a group of students, change can be hard because we don't know what to expect. And that's normal, and that's something that they'll experience often in their lives. I also shared that what I do know is that we have many wonderful buildings in our district, and many of you will learn a little bit about some of those buildings tonight, but also in some transition activities that you'll learn about later in the spring. So you'll have opportunities to visit, ask questions, and things like that. I've had a couple of conversations with a couple of students in classrooms and things, and trying to put things in a positive light, and I shared that, they just might meet their very best friend, someone that, is their best friend for their whole life. You never know what life has to offer you and the changes that you experience. So what I want to leave you with is, please know that my door is always open. It is here to answer any questions that you may have, to dispel any rumors, to reassure you, not only for your own child, but also for all the kids at Rice. They are the foremost in my mind, as well as our families. So please know that my door is always open, and I'm happy to answer any questions and help out in any way. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Miller, and he may introduce some of our other administrative staff and share with you some of his thoughts.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. I want to thank you all for coming out on not the prettiest of nights, obviously, with the weather, and for your flexibility from moving the meeting from Monday to today. I do want to thank Mrs. Rogers and the teachers here at Rice and the other staff members who have been very helpful once the decision had been made to close this building, and what is the best interest of our kids to help in that transition process. I cannot thank her for her leadership, and when she mentions the students are at the forefront of her mind in this process, that's accurate, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. Tonight I want to take just a few minutes to talk about the thought process that went into the decision to close Rice, but also into the decision as to what building your child will go to in the process. I'm also pleased tonight to introduce you to the principals of the receiving buildings that your children will be going to, and they're going to speak in just a few minutes. I'm going to talk and address too, after the school year is over, what happens to this building and this property, because that has come up, and a couple parents sent me some emails inquiring about that. So we'll go through that process. Then we'll have a question and answer session, and we'll do that in 3 ways. We'll provide you an opportunity to ask a question here if it's something that you'd like addressed openly. If you want to talk to me or one of the other administrators on the administrative team after the meeting, you could do that as well. Or we're going to have an opportunity for you to fill out a sheet, and they're in the back of the room. If you have a question, either you don't have time to ask here, or you'd rather just give it to us and we'll get back to you, that provides space for your phone number and your email address. So that's the flow, anticipated flow, and we'll stay as long as you have questions. Let me talk a little bit about the enrollment overall, and then specifically at Rice. At Mentor Schools, and I'm not sure how many of you are a proud graduate of the Cardinals, but at Mentor Schools, at our peak, we were over 12,500 students as a district. Currently, as a district, we are about 7,650 overall, and that's been a slide for about the past 10 to 12 years. So you can see with that enrollment, we've had to make adjustments. Unfortunately, this hasn't been our first closure of an elementary school building. You're very familiar with the other 3 buildings, I'm sure, in the district that we had to close and transition students out of. So again, unfortunately, this isn't our first time having to do that. I do hope this is our last time, quite honestly, but you don't know what types of changes come with the enrollment. I had a parent, and maybe they're here tonight, but I had a parent email me about a week ago and say, I get the enrollment, I understand it, I don't like it, but it makes sense financially. But what do you think is the reason for enrollment in Mentor Schools going down? And I really think what's happened is we have an aging population in Mentor. Our parents who raised us have moved into houses here and have stayed here. They haven't downsized. We've all moved out. They have not downsized, and our kids are either trying to find places in Mentor or some of the neighboring communities. And so that's really what's happened. We don't have a glut of kids leaving our district going to other schools. In fact, it's quite the opposite. There are a lot of people that would like to come here. Unfortunately, because of that aging population, we don't have school-age children. And so that's the situation that we're in right now. One of the things we look at as a school district is we look at graduating classes versus kindergarten classes as a whole. So as a district overall, we graduated about 660 students last year, which if you went to Mentor, you were probably in the 900s, close to 1,000 graduates, and it's gone down that much. So we graduated about 660. I'm close. I'm not exact, but I'm close. Our current kindergarten, first grade, second grade numbers district-wide are under 500. They're about right at 500. They're about 499. So we are graduating 660 and bringing in about 500 students. So you can see over time how that has an impact on a school district and a school system. So we're making those adjustments when we can, and unfortunately, this building closure is one of those adjustments that we've had to make. I will tell you also that the enrollment numbers, there are pockets of higher numbers at class sizes across the district. So for example, 5th grade in Mentor Schools district-wide is pretty high, but there's a significant drop-off after that. And Rice is no exception in those figures. For example, I believe, and I'm probably pretty close, but your 5th grade numbers are about 66 students, 65, 66 students, and the kindergarten is about 36. So you can see the impact that has as a district. So when we look at enrollment, and it's something that as an administrative team and as a superintendent, I look at every month. So every month we get a report on what the numbers are. So you could see that this was coming as an option that we were going to have to do as a system. And it's not an easy decision, believe me, and I know you know that. We looked at other buildings too, and what potential for closing other buildings would be, you know, but this building had the smallest enrollment, not by a lot, but it was the smallest, and it's the smallest size. And so that's a figure that we take into account as well. Also proximity, logistically, proximity to this building with students going to other schools made it, and this isn't the right term, but made it the most ideal for dispersion of students when you're looking at numbers. So unfortunately, a decision like this, though it's gut-wrenching and emotional, is driven by numbers and driven by data, and those are decisions that unfortunately we have to make. Let me speak a little bit to, hopefully you got an email last week in terms of what building your child would be assigned to and the thought process that went into that. Again, I had a parent who emailed and asked me, you know, Mr. Miller, why couldn't all the kids go to one building and keep the kids together? That wouldn't have worked out logistically with the numbers and the class sizes. So we don't want your children to be in schools where the class sizes are too high or the grade levels are too tight. So that's why we couldn't do that. Another example of that, and it's sort of a fallout factor for us, and it doesn't really have to do with Rice, but it has to do with the school district, is that when we made the decision to close Center Street, all of those students went to Hopkins. That worked at the time, but now we have issues because Hopkins is overcrowded, quite honestly. And if you have friends or family or teachers, you can talk to them about how tight it is at Hopkins and why that's an issue now. So that's something that as a district we're going to have to address very soon in terms of maybe some redistribution there as well. But it is something that we're keeping our finger on and eyes on. In terms of where the students went here, our best option was for the majority of the students, because of logistically, because of space, because of class sizes, to be Bellflower Elementary. And then we looked at transportation issues and geography, quite honestly, and logistics, and Fairfax Elementary and Lake Elementary became viable options as well, just because of the way the streets are laid out and where our kids had been going to school. So we looked at those factors, and then there's also a pocket of families that would be going to Orchard Hollow because of the way their neighborhood is set up. Logistically, it's the closest to that elementary, and it did not make any sense for those kids to go either to Bellflower or somewhere else where we had space. So it's a little bit of logistics, it's class sizes, it's fitting the students into a grade level where hopefully they're going to be most successful, where we weren't overloading a teacher or a class. That's really key in how the dispersion of students went. I had another parent email me and ask about whether or not, you know, essentially they could have their preference and choice. And my response would be, well, I understand your circumstances. I have to take everybody into account. And if I start letting people do things or making changes for their best interest, that's not, I guess, fair to the whole group. And I think this parent understood that and at least had to ask. And I would be the same thing as a parent myself. As Mrs. Rogers noted, we do want to have a strong end of the year to Rice Elementary. She has been very cognizant of wanting the Rice identity to continue. And so we want to finish strong as Rice students, and then we'll talk about that transition into the new buildings. At this time, I'm going to ask the receiving principals to come up. They're going to introduce themselves, and we're going to show a quick video clip of the receiving schools. Are they in order, any particular order? Okay. I'm going to start with Mrs. Hardy from Bellflower Elementary.
Hi, good evening. My name is Heather Hardy. I am the principal at Bellflower Elementary. This is my 4th year as principal there. Prior to that, I had some time at the board office where I did have the opportunity to work with a lot of Rice families. I see some familiar faces in the audience, and I look forward to having the chance to work with you and your children next year. My video? Awesome.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm one of the students here at Bellflower Elementary. We're really excited to have you. My favorite part of Bellflower is probably my friends and the teachers. They're all so supportive, and we cannot wait to have you join our big Bellflower family. We're really excited for all of you guys to come.
Hi, my name is Aaron, and this is the gym. You might recognize our teacher, Mrs. Kayami. This is one of our Connect classes. It's also called the multi-purpose room because it's where we have gym, lunch, we care, and assemblies. I can't wait to have you join us.
Hi, my name is Nora. I think you'll like Bellflower Elementary. Learning here is fun. I can't wait to meet you.
Mrs. Kriz from Fairfax.
Well, good evening, everyone. I am Christine Kriz. I'm the principal at Fairfax Elementary. And on behalf of our staff and students at Fairfax, we want to let you know how excited we are that you will be joining our learning environment and our community next year. And the kids have lots of messages, but I will let our video speak for that.
Hi, my name is Devin Ambrose. Welcome to Fairfax. I hope you like Fairfax and I have a good school year.
Hello, my name is Hallie. I can't wait for you guys to join Fairfax. This is our pond. Our pond is a big part of our school. We have assemblies, projects, and a bunch of other stuff in the pond. We can just hang out and do a bunch of schoolwork. I hope you guys enjoy it when you come to Fairfax.
Hi, I'm Megan, and this is our media room. This is where we have technology class and library. We have iPads, Chromebooks, and laptops for everyone to work with. We also have comfortable seats to read in or work in. The kids here are really nice and always are happy to have new friends. I hope you learn to love Fairfax like I have. I'm sure you'll have lots of fun.
We can't wait to meet our new friends!
Mrs. Parumba from Lake Elementary.
Good evening. My name is Jody Parumba. I am the principal at Lake Elementary School. And on behalf of the students and the teachers and everybody at Lake, we would like to just welcome the Rice families that will be joining us next year. We're thrilled and excited to have you.
Hi, I'm Jared, and we learn a lot at Lake Elementary, and it is fun.
Hi, my name's Noah, and we're to the Bellflower School. They have nice teachers and nice principals. Hi, I'm Haley. We have great teachers and great friends at Lake Elementary.
Hi, I'm Vincent. We have caring and terrific students at Lake Elementary, and we can't wait to meet you too.
And Mrs. Trunk from Orchard Hollow.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Trunk, and I'm the principal at Orchard Hollow Elementary, and I've been there for 11 years and in the Mentor School District for 30. So I have been through this process before, and right now it feels really painful, but you'll be surprised. I think you'll love those of you who are coming to Orchard Hollow. We're really looking forward to having you join us, and I think our kids' message will pass that along to you too.
Welcome to Orchard Hollow!
is Clarissa. This is our science lab, where we learn about science and do fun experiments and sometimes other fun stuff.
Hi, my name is Cody. This is our gym area. We have lots of room to play basketball, and we also have a lunchroom.
Hi, my name is Maddie. This is our library and our tech lab. We have lots of fun books and our computers work great. I can't wait for you to come here.
We can't wait to meet our new friends!
Thank you, principals. I do want to mention too, and I'm sure this has come up, and if it hasn't with your children, it probably will, is what happens to Mrs. Rogers and what happens to my teachers. And so I'm confident in telling you that Mrs. Rogers will still be a principal in the district. So we're happy for that and thrilled, and this process shows us a lot about wanting her to be a part of our schools and maybe your child's school as well. The teachers, that's our next step, is we're working on where they're going to go. So it is very likely that some of the current staff here at Rice will be potentially one of your child's teachers or on staff there. So they're not going to lose that connection. So I did want to point that out to everybody. At this point, I am going to probably take the mic in the middle because I feel like I'm so far away from you that I'm in a big hallway, and we're going to do questions and answers. As best as I can answer your questions now, I will. And that way I can hear what you're saying, and I'll repeat the question. And then again, you have three options. So you can ask here, essentially, if it's for the greater good, or if you have a question you want to ask, maybe not in front of everybody, about a certain circumstance you might be having. Myself, the administrative team, will be up here up front. We're finished. And again, the third option, whether it's time issue or you don't want to ask right now, there is a stack of papers and pens in the back. You are free to write your question down, and we'll answer it as quickly as we can. In terms of, make sure you just give us either an email address or a phone number or both, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So let me switch. Okay, are there any questions anybody would like to ask right now? So she was asking, I believe, about class sizes, specifically Bellflower, but let me try to put it in terms for everybody in the room. In Mentor schools, we have a range of class sizes that we use. So the range, for the most part, is kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, anywhere from 18 to 25. Sometimes you have fluctuations in that, one or two at either end, but that's our goal range that we try to go for. Grades 4 and 5, you're talking anywhere from 22 to 28. And again, that's a range. So does that help with that part? Okay, what was your second? Thank you. I forgot to mention about the building and the property, which I know a lot of people are interested with this being your neighborhood. So I get approached all the time about building properties in our district, not just Rice. And I've gotten a couple phone calls and an email about what our intent is with this building. And I have told everybody who has approached me since this announcement came out that we're not going to entertain any thoughts or any ideas about this building or this property until summer, till the kids are finished, till the teaching staff has been reassigned and going to different buildings, because I don't think that's a process we need to be dealing with right now. Honestly, I have no idea what we're going to do. We might not do anything in terms of could the district utilize this building in another way or another fashion. I think that's an option. I know at some point the city, and I'm sure maybe you had heard about this before too, but the city was approaching us about some of the land behind Rice for water retention. Nothing's on the table for that at all. I mean, the last time they've talked to me seriously about that was probably a year and a half ago, and we sold some property by Bellflower, if you saw that in the news. So we don't have any plans, but I get approached, and I just tell them, thanks, but we're not even going to focus on that until the summertime, until there's a shift. I've been approached too about the playground equipment, especially from PTA, because I know PTA is invested. My first initial thought to that is we keep it as is, and it's part of the community, and the kids can still use it and access it, you know, in the summer. That would be ideal. In time, if it's not being utilized as much as we want, then maybe one of the other buildings can acquire it, but we'll work with the PTA here about what that looks like. You're welcome. So there's 125 from this building that are going to Bellflower. And Bellflower has gone down in size like other schools in the district, so we're going to be adding classrooms to that building, adding class teachers to that building. So it's not, we're not taking the current staff and, for lack of a better term, cramming 125 more kids into the system, into that building. We're adding teachers to the staff to address those needs. And it goes back to, the class sizes go back to that range I mentioned just before. So 18 to 25 and 22 to 28. Those ranges don't change. That's a good question. A lot of it has to do with square footage at the buildings. And so the Hopkins problem, in my opinion, is very unique because it is so large, and that's rare. Our other buildings aren't like that right now. I don't know if there are any Hopkins staff members in the room, but it's pretty tight. So we're looking at sort of a phase 2 in time about possibly redistricting other elementaries. So we did look at, you know, could we do something with another building, but then you might be moving one problem over and creating another for the building, but this was the best option we had at the time. Ridge has been, is only about 75 students less than Shore. And so when you, and here's the conversation I have with people too in terms of middle schools. Closing an elementary is really hard. It's very emotional. It's a neighborhood school concept. Middle schools are just a little bit different because essentially all of our kids, mine and yours, are going to end up at Mentor High School. So all of our kids in some way are going to go to one of 3 middle schools. And so at a middle school, you offer opportunities to each of those schools that you probably don't have in elementary. So there's sport teams, there's extracurriculars and things like that at a middle school. If you take our middle schools from 3 down to 2, you just limited options for our kids and opportunities. So I have a hard time wanting to go down that path right now. I can't say we're never going to do it. I can't say we're not going to examine it because we look at enrollment and numbers every month. So, but that's sort of my initial thinking right now. Yeah, we're working on that now. We can't really, to be honest with you, we can't really adjust that time at Bellflower or the other schools, because if we do, then that adjusts something else and it doesn't affect the busing. I don't want to say it's all about transportation because it's not, but it is an issue for us if we adjusted the time. It would be nice if all of our buildings started at, you know, 8:30, but they don't, you know, and the high school starts at 7:20. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to hopefully work on with you in terms of what does that transition look like, because I get it screws up your whole family life in terms of the start of school and the end of school. So, you know, if you sent your children to We Care now, in some cases it might be a similar thing, but instead of sending them to We Care, you're sending them to start school. So we have to look at what that time frame does, and every parent and family is going to have to look at what it does for their own situation. Yes. 6 o'clock. No morning, no morning. But they start at 7:35. What time are you allowed to drop them off? 7:30. We discussed Lake, we discussed Garfield, just because of the size and numbers. A little bit of that comes down, though, to logistics because of where Lake is at in relationship to the other schools in the district. Essentially, the students here at Rice are going to be going to schools that surround Rice, and so that would have been a more difficult transition if we closed a different building. But we did look at other options. Well, the IEP number might be skewed by the units that we have here. So the units are going to be going to Sterling Morton, actually. So that kind of skews the IEP numbers a little bit. Right. Right. Well, let me. Right. Let me talk about that for just a second. So, just so you know, in the open concept classrooms, I mean, it's different, quite honestly, at first when you walk in, but the kids get used to it, and so do the teaching staff. In fact, and you know this already, but there are kids on IEPs that are in those open building classrooms that have similar issues to the kids that go here. So it's able to work for them. I guess my advice would be, if you have a child in that situation or a student in that situation, I would say talk to your teacher that handles your child's IEP and get their thoughts a little bit on that, and maybe it's an issue of trying that concept and going from there. It's not anything insurmountable. They do a good job with the open concept. There are a lot of positives, and there's drawbacks too, but there's positives and negatives to either open and closed. So open for debate, I guess. Other questions for the good of the order? So we looked at logistically where the buses go, where people are at in their neighborhoods, and then close proximity to school. I could talk with you when we're done and we'll take a look at it, but essentially we tried to keep neighborhoods together so that kids and their friends that were in the same neighborhoods would be going to the same schools. You know, you can't guarantee that, but that's our hope. You know, and it is, you know, there's busing issues involved too, and space issues at these other schools. So even though you might be closer to one, there might be more space for the neighborhood, not just for you, but for the neighborhood going to the other school. Somebody had a hand up, yes. Good question. Couple things there. So the question was, many people might not know what the open concept looks like and what is it like. So one of the things that we're going to do is have open houses at those schools so you can see it. But essentially, there aren't walls in the for classrooms. The teachers do block it off with bookcases and furniture. You can tell you're an open concept, but one grade level might be in a pod together without walls. And so it depends on the building and the situation, but it works pretty effectively. But that's a good point. I'm sure that there is, but I couldn't tell you what it is. Right now, I know the Ohio School Facilities Commission does studies for new construction, and their square footage is what they go by, and not by number of pupils in a classroom. And that square footage is a lot smaller than the classrooms we have. That's our next phase. So we wanted to talk to our parents, and the teachers have been really good about understanding, wanting to take care of the kids first, and I don't want to say they're second, but they're right behind. So we're hoping to get that finalized in the next couple of weeks. So we have some contractual things that we're going to work out with MTA, and again, as I said before, unfortunately, this isn't the first time we've done this. So we have a little bit of past practice on what that looks like. I can tell you at this point in time, and this is very important, I think that all of us that work here, and all of us in this room, is we want to make sure that our staff land in good quality spots and nobody loses a job. And so we have a lot of retirements this year, so I'm pretty confident right now that we're going to make that happen. And you know, when you're talking about livelihood and things like that, it's a whole different ball game. Not more dire than the students, obviously, but it's something that we're working on. So we have a little bit of time to get there, and it's a fear of the unknown, you know, for them and, you know, for us too. Yeah, I'm sure we'll do that somehow. I'm not sure what that'll look like yet, but honestly, we haven't thought that far ahead, but I think that's a good suggestion. That's a great question, and I'm going to be a little bit generic with you right now because there's kids in the room, okay? So when you're talking about the barricades and the lockdown devices, this may shock you, but we have those same devices in all the open concept classrooms or buildings. So we can put kids in the 4 buildings into spaces behind doors and use a barricade, all of them, even when the kids come. So we've already worked that out. I will tell you that, and this is the part that I'm going to be very general and generic on, I will tell you that there are maybe more negatives in classrooms and buildings like this versus in an open concept. Because when you're in an open concept, you have options. But if you want me to follow up on that later, I'd be glad to without little ones. The reason behind the open concept classroom, quite honestly, is somebody in the mid to late 70s thought it was a great idea. Now, not so much. We haven't talked about erecting walls in schools like that. In my previous district, we had open concept middle school, and we looked into it. You know, financially, it wasn't a good idea. And again, there are some pros being in an open concept classroom. One example would be in all the schools, and even Rice, I could give different examples and then positives about each building. But at Orchard Hollow, nope, scratch that. At Fairfax, they took their 5th grade and we had bifold kind of walls, accordion style. We took those out and opened it up for the 5th grade and made it a very cool learning space for the whole grade level to work with the teachers, with their colleagues, with their peers and friends in sort of an open setting. It is very, very cool, and the kids have done a lot of neat things with it. So it gives you options. If you're in a classroom with the 4 walls, you don't have a lot of options. I'm not saying it's great and it's going to be smooth. I'm just saying it's not all bad. Every child is different, and every child is specialized in that term. I would say probably circle back with your teacher here and talk to them about that, and maybe get their thoughts on it. I'm not trying to pawn it off or not answer your question. I just don't know your son or daughter very well to say what the fit's going to be. You know, the other thing that I'll mention too is, as a district, and this is not new, we don't have a lot of slots, but there is open enrollment for very special circumstances, and so we have a policy for that comes out in the spring. So if that's something you want to at least investigate, again, it's based on how many slots are at buildings, and that gets, you know, a little tricky and not guaranteed. So as PTA president, somebody, you want the mic? You don't have to adjust this one.
Sorry, I didn't plan to say anything else, but I know when I was a teacher at Center Street Village Elementary when it closed, and what the PTA did when the kids went to Hopkins is that PTA scholarship money stayed in trust, and so it was available until all of the students who attended Center Street Village were graduated and actually had the opportunity to apply for and receive a scholarship. And I believe that that's what they did at Reynolds and Headlands as well.
I can speak to Reynolds. That's exactly what we did at Reynolds. I was the PTA president at Reynolds when it closed, and we had funds available, luckily, in our account, and we were able to grant scholarships to our students that were graduating and weren't going on to other elementary schools. So every year we were able to reward a scholarship to those students until they had gone through and graduated for the following 6 years. So that's something that your PTA will want to have a committee to work on, and hopefully they'll be able to do that as well for the students. And then the PTAs will want to work together for the schools that the kids will transition to work on, you know, plans for the kids that go to other schools.
Other questions? We will. We will update all the maps. That's a good point. And she asked if we were going to update the district maps, specifically for middle schools, but district-wide we will. And we're working on that now. That takes a little bit longer, but that's a good question. And I'll tell you too, you know, we've put a lot of investments in at Ridge, but Shore needs attention, and that's a plan that we're working on right now with their facilities there. Great building, great bones, needs a heck of a lot of updating, quite honestly, and so we're going to work on a plan for that very, very soon. Sure, great idea. So the question was, is there a way that you can get an email when the maps are updated? Yes, 2 ways. So we can send that as an email. Somebody on team remind me of that will do that once they're updated. The other thing is that they're on our website. So they're on the website now, and they'll be on the website once they're updated. Good suggestion. So the question is, wanted to know about test scores, perhaps at other buildings versus Rice. No, it's not based on test scores. Not test scores. And just so you know, comparatively speaking, all of our elementaries are pretty much right in line with one another as far as test scores go. There's fluctuations year to year, and you're going to have that in any system, but no. The question was, when do we find out about transportation? Probably very soon this spring. So that's a good question. So the question is, when the kids go to Bellflower, or I'm going to just change it to, when the kids go to their new school or any of the buildings, are they going to be all together? You know, we've talked about that. Here's what we don't want to happen. We don't want your son and daughter to be the only one from Rice in their room. So we do want to make sure that we're cognizant of what that looks like. But I don't think it's probably a good idea to have one Rice third grade and then, you know, 3 Bellflower third grades. It's not, I don't think, what anybody wants. So I think there'll be some mix of that, but we are going to work hard to make sure that, you know, they're not the only one in that classroom, because that would not be good for the transition process. Good point. The question was, what are we going to do with the $725,000 that's being saved by closing this building? My answer to you today is it would go back into our facilities as a district. That's a good point. So the question is, what about the community involvement piece in this decision? Here's something, again, that we've learned, having done this now 4 times, is when you bring groups together and you're talking about closing a building, some people have a tendency to say, I don't care what you do to this one, but not to me. And it goes back to, we went with the numbers and the data, and it was so clear cut that it wasn't an issue for us, quite honestly. And again, that's a piece that some people might struggle with a little bit, but the numbers are the numbers, and it's pretty clear cut. So you're talking about sales of houses and homes? No, we didn't consider that, other than we know that the real estate market is pretty tough in Mentor. There are a lot of people that want to move here, but there aren't a lot on the market. I'm sorry? 200 homes. Okay. You have 6 houses? Yeah. I guess when that happens, we'll try to address it then. If they sell, I think the real estate agents will be very happy. We'll deal with it when it happens. I don't think that'll happen. I hope that doesn't happen, and if it does, we'll make adjustments, just like we're going to. Yeah, I can't really speak to the real estate and to the houses and things like that. Out of my jurisdiction. All I can tell you is my data says we were 12,500 and now we're 7,600, and we got to make adjustments because of that. Nobody likes to do it. Nobody wants to be here. Mrs. Rogers, did you hear that?
I'm listening to a lot of different parent concerns, and I want you to know that I have thought of all of them. There hasn't been one that we haven't discussed or haven't thought of. I want to reassure you that absolutely, as we move through this year, We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be a part of what happens at our building as we move through this transition. So things like PTA scholarships for our kids who are currently here, we've talked about that, and we've also talked about that with PTA, but also with student council. We do have some funds that we're going to expend on our kids here because you as parents raise those funds through PTA or what have you. Same thing with as we look toward the end of the year and we plan some closing, really good, bring our community together celebrations. Absolutely, I want parents here. Will we be aware of security and things like that? Sure we will. We need to protect our kids, but I don't have concerns with our parents coming here at all. So the other piece, I know a lot of you are concerned about your kids and as they transfer to new classrooms and open buildings and new teachers, and will they know my child as they have been known here at Rice? I will work very hard with my colleagues who are wonderful, caring principals to plan the best case scenario. So I know if so-and-so might have a harder time and it would be better if they had this friend with them. We will have those kinds of conversations. So please remember, my door's open. Let me know if your child's coming home and is fearful, concerned, or what have you, because we and the teachers, when I say we, the staff or what have you, will work through those. Absolutely. I will not let this 5th grade class miss that. I guarantee you that. That won't happen. So what I'm thinking, and I know that there has been a lot of talk and what have you, and I want parent input and teacher and staff input, but I know that that's very important to our 5th grade students. So in my mind, 5th grade is going to Menor Beach Park. They're having, on the last day of school, they're having their picnic. They're going to be clapped out by themselves on the last day of school. They're going to have their promotion because they're the only class that if I don't do that, they'll miss it. Everyone else, as they move on to other buildings, they have similar things. So I won't let that happen. So absolutely, you know, and let me know if you're thinking we're missing something. That's a great idea. Those were great, yeah.
So his comment was, can the kids see the videos? So we'll make sure that happens. That's a great suggestion that we might not have thought of. Yes, sir. We will try to make that happen. Yes. So we're going to have a special meeting for the units. So, yeah. Sorry you're here. Glad you're here. Yes, sir. We look at enrollment monthly. So it was something that had been coming and didn't change and didn't improve. I mean, essentially, once we made the decision, you know, I don't want to be wrong when I say this, but it was sometime after Christmas break where we knew we had to do this, but it had been coming, based on enrollment. No. There are a lot of stuff happening right now, so we're working on that transportation issue right now. But when you look at transportation, where the kids go, it's almost easier to start over as a district, as a K-12 system, instead of just taking the transportation from this neighborhood and figuring it out, because you have buses that are going to pick up kids in other neighborhoods now. So it makes more sense if it's done all at one time. But no, there are a lot of things that we've already talked about in terms of the staffing that we still need to talk to the association about. We met with them today and discussed what that looks like. So we wanted to, again, take care of the families and kids first in terms of the transition, and then we're going to follow back right behind on the staff. So, and we're working on some things now with that. I mean, we work on staffing all the time too, so it's not like we're starting fresh Monday, so to speak. It's an ongoing process. I don't think it'll feel crowded. I think it'll feel different if you're in that building and you have more kids coming in, and now there's a teacher in this room, and there wasn't a teacher in this room last year. In that term, it's really hard to say. I mean, it'll probably go up because some of the class sizes here are so small, so the kids will have a little bit of adjustment, quite honestly. It depends on the building, and it depends on the grade, because some of our grade fluctuations, there's some bubble classes, but again, most of those that are at 5th grade and above. In fact, once 5th grade, next year, after next year, once 5th grade graduates on, our elementaries that's the last bubble group we have. So, as a system. Yes, sir. You're probably right. I mean, we'll take a look at that. Yes, ma'am. I think, so you're asking, like, once the dust settles and everybody's in their new spot, will we still be hiring? Is that what you're asking? Yep. Right. Classified staff, custodians, office staff. Yeah, we're always hiring, so to speak. One of those things that we do all the time as well. So I think the first part is I'm pretty confident that everybody that's in this building that works here will have a job next year. So when I say pretty confident, I mean I can't think of a reason why somebody wouldn't, because there are going to be enough holes. There'll be some bumping, which, you know, is an issue too, that as a system you have to go through and take care of. So we'll get through that, and then after that settles, there'll still be open positions in teaching and in the classified ranks in the district. That's not going to change. The challenge for us is where those open slots are now. So I mean, if you look at our postings, we're hiring all the time. So we're trying to see if we temporarily fill those now for openings that happen right now, because we don't want to move people out of this building mid-year or towards the end of the year. So yes, I think everyone's going to have a job, and yes, there'll still be additional hiring going on. Yeah, I think they would have final say. PTA would have final say with the funds and things for the kids. And again, ideally it would be split up to the buildings in proportion. We want them to do that. We don't want to say, you need to do this, and you need, I mean, because it's the investment you guys had.
I can share, we have trust funds on the school district's books, and we did accept the PTA funds with the intended purpose defined by the PTA. So they're a restricted fund that can only be used for those purposes, rather than going to the bank and setting up an independent trust fund. So we can, as a school district, honor the decisions of the PTA and ensure that money, if it's to follow the students further through their academic term, whatever the conditions are, we have a mechanism to do that.
That's a great suggestion. We will talk about what that looks like, because what you're suggesting to me makes a lot of sense. So if you didn't hear the question, if your student's on an IEP or 504, just to make sure there's transition in place for new teacher, new building, that's really important. That's a great point. So we'll work to make sure that that happens. Where did you say you got your information from? Okay. If you check out the Ohio Department of Education site, you can find out test scores. Yeah. I've seen great schools. Be honest with you, my honest opinion, it's not a great platform, even though they call it that. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. I know some of those are wrong too, because we have people that buy homes thinking they're going to go to one school and they end up going to another. So it does happen. I would encourage you, if you're looking at test scores, first of all, we're all pretty much in lockstep with one another. I think if you're a real estate agent, you're trying to sell a home and you tell people it's in Mentor, that carries a lot of weight, and it doesn't matter I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but that's more important than maybe a neighboring district. No, I mean, for the most part, no. We're working on the routes themselves, so not whether or not someone's going to get transportation or not. Good question. All right, Mrs. Rogers, do you want to say any few words? Again, before she closes us out, some of the administrative team will be up front, so if you have questions you want to ask one of us individually, you can. Again, there's comment sheets in the back. If you'd like for us to get back with you, please fill out one of those. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your attention. We want this to be a best transition that we can for our kids and drive home safely also.
I just wanted to thank you very much for being here. I want to thank you for all of your wonderful questions and those of you who shared what your questions were, because those are the same questions that we all have. I want to thank Mr. Miller and also my principals here, my colleagues, who will, as I said, I will be working very closely with to make sure that all of the kids have a really good, smooth transition and are set up for a great next school year, because that's where my heart has been for the last 20 years. So I do want to encourage you, though, again, should you hear anything, should you have any questions or what have you, just give the school a call. If I don't know the answer, I will find one for you and get back to you, as I know Mr. Miller has promised here, tonight as well. So thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.